What's going on? Welcome back to Financial Journey. So today when I talk to you on ChargePoint, I want to go over some of the current data points, what's been coming up from the company itself, and go over everything else you need to know. But first, make sure to hit that thumbs up and subscribe. Always greatly appreciate that. And with that said, let's get right to it. So currently ChargePoint is down 0.67%. Broader market is selling off. And within the first 1 hour of the trading day, 2.03 million shares being traded, 18.6 is the average. And over the last week, you have seen ChargePoint really wanting to break out. A lot of abnormal transactions, and in reality, there's been no news. So the last news that did come out for ChargePoint was, I believe, December the 6th, and that was just their Q3 earnings. And aside from that, all of this is just ambulance chasers for the class action, blah, blah, blah. When it comes to SEC filings, though, there was a couple of Form 4s that came out December the 22nd, which in my opinion is very good and bullish. But aside from that, though, there's been no news. So in reality, there probably is a lot of institutions that are just quietly accumulating ChargePoint. As I've said, I think it was about 2 or 3 videos ago, a lot of institutions are going to be scouring the market, as what typically a lot of retail investors do as well, but they're looking for value plays. And ChargePoint, this has been hit way too hard. I have said this in the past, despite my bearish price prediction from the past, or I guess my last video, and that was more piggybacking off of this. So the Elliott wave projecting, I guess, 84 cents to $1.17. But despite that, though, this is unjustified. Probably, given everything that's happened to ChargePoint, which a lot of it is negative, probably justifies maybe a 50% downtrend, not this. This is absolutely crazy, especially if you kind of look over here over the last 1 year, down 77.7%. That's just overdone. So a lot of institutions are going to be really watching ChargePoint, more specifically their upcoming earnings, just on the future guidance and the numbers that they kind of put out. So far for analysts, for expectations, they are getting a little bit more bearish. So a lot of the bullish analysts did leave, because you can kind of see there was previously 11 analysts that gave estimates, and they did have a consensus for the earnings per share being -12. It went to -13, and now there's only 9. So 2 kind of pulled their estimates, and those ones were bullish. And looking for revenue right now, similar kind of nature. So went from 19 to 16 analysts, and went from 134 to 120 million for revenue for the upcoming Q4. So not necessarily the best, of course, but this is where ChargePoint could really surprise the broader market. And I feel like this is where a lot of retail and institutions are quietly buying. You can tell retail is buying and stabilizing based on the momentum indicator over the last couple of days. So that's kind of a good thing. Looking at stochastic, you do see a underlying bullish sentiment, so black line above the red, and it is currently at 17, which is considered oversold. So if there's a good piece of news that does come out for ChargePoint, which I don't think anything is anticipated, but if there is something that does come out, you will see ChargePoint go up very fast, in my opinion, of course. Looking on some data points, starting off with shorts. Currently, shorts are returning 159,000 shares. 22.27% of the free float is being shorted. 85.25 million shares overall are being shorted. Cost to borrow average is opening up a little bit lower in comparison to yesterday. So right now it is at 3.7, and this is just simply a supply and demand kind of model. So obviously it is going down because of just a lot of the newer investors getting in. And obviously you can tell that based on that momentum indicator that I showed you. But through Interactive Broker, short availability does indicate around 1.6 million shares available to be shorted. So this is why I like to analyze this information, because with ChargePoint being red today and shorts closing out the positions, they do feel that it's not justified, and that potentially ChargePoint should be higher than what it currently is. So that's kind of a good thing. Looking right here on options, $105,000 in puts being purchased versus 47,000 in calls. Sentiment wise, 52% of all of the options being done so far within the first hour and a half of the trading day is bearish. Of the call options that are being purchased, you can kind of tell that there's a consensus for it to be above 250 by the end of next week. And looking at puts, it is anticipated to be sub $1.50. So clearly based on the puts, it is more piggybacking off of that Elliott wave technicals that I did talk on, which once again is right here. So it's kind of crazy. This is what I did bring up during my last video, and it has a pivot point of 283. And so for as long as it does continue to trade below that, then this is what is anticipated. Kind of crazy stuff. I feel like that's overdone. And if it does get below or sub $1, this is where you get into reverse stock split territory and many other things. It's a very scary domino effect. So hopefully ChargePoint does have some good news under its belt that it's kind of waiting on just to put out, or maybe a very surprise future guidance for 2024. Aside from that though, looking at some strong resistance and support points with it currently at 2020, it is on a pivot point as of right now. So it's going to be flirting with that for the next little bit. 208 is going to be that next strong support, and 233 is going to be that next strong resistance. And depending on where ChargePoint does land today, which in my opinion, I feel like it's going to be between the P and the R1. But regardless, this pivot point is either going to turn to support or resistance depending on where it lands. So in my opinion, I feel like ChargePoint is kind of stabilizing, and the bigger entities out there, which basically right here, going back over here to the ownership. On a side note, if you're looking for a lot of good compiled information, take a look at Interactive Brokers for all this information to be completely free. I have a link in the description below and also the comments. But aside from that though, a lot of big money is in ChargePoint. 199 million shares is being held by institutions. So a lot of big names such as Vanguard, BlackRock, State Street, many others. So I feel like a lot of those might be one of the entities out there quietly accumulating. And if it is BlackRock, for instance, they always like to lend out their shares. So that would make a little bit more sense why the cost to borrow average is going down. So like I said, just supply and demand models. So in my opinion, I know that was a scary price prediction based on my last video, but it does seem to be stabilizing. Of course, there is good old CPI data that is coming out on Thursday, so that could really change the dynamic of ChargePoint and just the broader market. But for right now, I want to be cautiously optimistic and say that ChargePoint is actually going to be potentially trending up. Maybe to the R2 to the R3, so as high as 250, which is obviously the bullish options that are being done. But I think in reality, for it to break above that, it needs to come back down onto the company to put out some good substantial news. Let me know your thoughts. Give yourself a shout out. Have you been buying ChargePoint? Have you been selling? What have you been doing? Do you think that it's going to go back to the threes, or do you agree with that crazy price prediction that it's going to be sub $1 in the foreseeable future? What's your thoughts? Don't forget to hit that thumbs up and subscribe. Always greatly appreciate that. But one final thing I wanted to share with you, take advantage of this promo. It's been extended up until January the 15th. Simply sign up for an account with Moo, throw $100 at it, and you get 5 free stocks. Each stock is valued up to $2,000. So this is a crazy deal. Link in the description below and also the comments. With all that said, I appreciate all of you watching.